My sister died 17 years ago. She left behind a 4-month-old daughter, now nearly adult, and a 5-year-old son, now 22. My sister was diagnosed with cancer 8 months into her pregnancy, and she knew it was terminal immediately. After my niece was born, she asked me if I would keep her dresses. She had a collection of very nice dresses she had accumulated because she worked for a fashion magazine and got discounts and freebies sometimes, and her favorite jewelry for her kids. She said maybe her daughter wouldn't want the clothes, but they would be with me if she did. She told me she knew her husband loved her, but she knew he would remarry and that lines could be blurred, and she didn't want any of his future children or his future wife laying claim to her possessions. She wanted them for her children. She also had a necklace that she knew her son would like one day, and he asked for it when he was 15 and still wears it today. I said, of course. Her husband did remarry, and about a year after my sister died, he told our family he had gotten another woman pregnant, and then a couple of months later announced they were to marry. Things were awkward for a few years. He was still a part of our lives, but we hadn't been close when my sister was alive, and his wife held some hard feelings toward us. Their older daughter is a teen, and their younger is a tween. His oldest daughter has a school dance coming up and wanted to wear one of my sister's dresses because she saw a photo of my sister wearing one and had heard from her dad that I had them. He told me she wanted a dress and wanted me to send it over with my niece for his daughter. I refused to send it, and he responded by asking my nephew. Nephew said his half-sister had no business having anything to do with one of his mom's dresses. My niece wasn't angry like my nephew was, but she found the idea weird. My sister's husband told me it wasn't fair to deny the girl the dress because she's not my sister's daughter, and she is part of the family, and it shouldn't be a big deal. I told him I don't feel comfortable giving it and would do what my sister wanted. He suggested she could choose another dress from the collection, and I said she wasn't getting any of the dresses. He said I shouldn't be depriving his daughter, and she's being treated unfairly. I told him those dresses were nothing to do with her. They're for my sister's children. He called me pathetic. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your sister was right that he would get remarried and failed to safeguard the items she wanted to pass on to her daughter. He's proven her right. Stick to your guns and safeguard those items for your sister's daughter. These children have no claim to her estate, which was dispersed prior to their death. I can't imagine what this man is thinking, but I'm sure your niece and nephew are grateful for your support. He probably thinks that he'll save money by getting his daughter a dress for free. Also, I feel OP's sister suspected her husband of cheating sometime before this. Why do some people have such little empathy for the ones they claim they love? If my partner was pregnant with my child or going through a horrible disease, I'd be by their side the whole time. I just don't get it, because most of their wives are Mom 2.0, and once their wives stop prioritizing them above everything because they're dying or growing a human, they move on to the next one that'll coddle them. My neighbor's a divorce attorney. This is 100% true. One of my best friends got brain cancer, and her husband slept with something like a dozen women while she was getting treated. Then when she was recovering, he dumped her. Another friend developed breast cancer while pregnant. Her husband went out, had multiple affairs, and got another woman pregnant, and cheated on her too. So true. He doesn't want to spend money on a special dress for his daughter to wear to the dance. But how the heck did his daughter manage to see pics of his dead wife in a dress and then dare to claim it? Something tells me it's the husband's idea all along. Ironically, he called you pathetic when he, a grown man, could not buy his daughter a nice dress and had to steal from his other daughter? He sounds greedy, to be honest. My 30 female husband has a 23-year-old daughter. Recently, she stopped living with her roommates to get an apartment with her 30-year-old unemployed boyfriend, who she's seen for 6 months prior to that. I told her dad he needed to talk to her before she moved in with him because the whole relationship was a walking red flag and it was going to blow up. So he did. She didn't want to hear it. Whatever, not my problem. She's an adult. I will mention here that she had lived with us before when she got into a tight spot, and over the years she's made it pretty obvious she only likes me if she wants something. I've caught her bad-mouthing me to her family and friends on multiple occasions. Her dad and I have been together for 6 years. I owned a house when we met, and I paid it off with the life insurance I got when I lost my first husband. Her dad and I are comfortable financially because of that. Anyways, the 30-year-old jobless boyfriend isn't working out. Former roommates rented out her old room, and she can't find anything she can afford on her own. She came by and hinted about living with us. I hinted at no. Now she's flat out asking to move in. I said absolutely not. Now she's saying her boyfriend is emotionally abusive to her and crying to her dad constantly. She has run to her family and said that I'm making her dad force her to stay in an abusive relationship. Her mom lives in another state, and she doesn't want to go there to live with her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If she's bad-mouthing you to others, she's disrespected you and is now just trying to use you again. Stand your ground. She's an adult and can live with her choices. Both her living situation and how she's treated you. Frankly, she sounds like a nightmare. Why is living with you the only option? Can't your husband help her out monetarily so she can get a new apartment? She can't afford an apartment. She was renting a room for a good price, but she gave that up to move in with this idiot. She can't find anything she can afford in our area, the 9th most expensive city in the U.S. My husband doesn't want her to live here either. I see exactly where you're coming from, and good on you for trying to mitigate this problem before it even began. However, the fact that this is a bit of an age gap, 23 and 30, makes me concerned that he may be abusive. Can you let her move in under certain conditions? She has, let's say, 90 days to find another place. She needs to respect certain rules, etc., etc. I just remember being 23, and I also dated a guy in his 30s. We never lived together, though, and he definitely took advantage of me financially. I ended up paying for a lot of stuff because he'd randomly quit every job he had because they disrespected him. It was exhausting, and I wasn't old enough to recognize how red those flags were in the beginning. I disagree. If she is really in a difficult situation, either her dad help her financially, or she can go live with her mom until she gets something better. But it's not like you helping her is the only solution. It looks like it's just the easier one for everyone except you, who will be making a compromise for her careless behavior. My 27 male, wife 27, is very into feminism, and I often joke about it. And she doesn't seem to mind. Like, I believe in equality and all, and don't criticize her view or anything. My wife was having car troubles with the engine of her old car, and her mechanic convinced her they were going to get worse and advised her to get another car. I thought it could do more years, but she still decided to sell it without getting a second opinion. Her mechanic is actually a woman, and she trusts her for that reason, and she thinks that she's a great mechanic. My wife sold her old car and got a used one that was much newer from this lady. She bought it because she fell in love with the color and thought it looked cute. It's a fine car and I have no issues with it, but it just seemed like an odd reason to get a car to me. The car has an AWD badge on it, and as we drove it back after she bought it, she asked me why it said AWD. I joked and said it was something they put on, and it's a club called the Association of Women Drivers, where women get together to talk about their cars and car troubles and help each other. I thought she would realize it was a joke, but she took me seriously. So I didn't say anything and tried not to laugh. Finally, she said she would consider joining it. When we got home, she Googled it and realized I was joking, but she got really upset and called me an idiot. I don't get why she was so offended by such a small joke. I would have told her eventually what it meant. You are the idiot. Your wife needs to improve her knowledge of investing in and caring for a motor vehicle. However, I felt all kinds of underlying misogyny in your story. The mechanic bought it from this lady, Association of Women Drivers. Like, stop and be helpful to your partner. What really got me was how she didn't seem to mind his anti-feminist jokes. For some odd reason, I doubt he's reading her right. I also love how he knows better than the mechanic about the state of the old car. He gave no reason as to what makes him more qualified. As a woman who's a gearhead, I've run into too many condescending men like him. It's a fact that women are, on average, charged more for car maintenance. Finding a mechanic you can trust is worth their weight in gold, even more so when you're a woman. The mechanic could have let the wife keep sinking money into a car that's not worth it. Instead, she gave up possible future work by telling the wife it was time to find something new. That's why the wife trusts her. It always amazes me that a woman like OP's wife would put up with OP. You are the idiot, and you seem insecure. Are you a little preoccupied with the fact that your wife identifies as a feminist and supports women who work in non-traditional fields? Your dismissal of her mechanic, claiming your wife only likes her because of her gender, it is classic BS, designed to make it impossible for this person to be evaluated on the merits of her work. You have work to do. I hope she leaves you and marries a fellow feminist, or someone at least a bit more secure. I, Pete, and my wife, Eve, have an agreement. The agreement says that if one of us has a complaint or a suggestion to voice to the other person, we have to preface it with at least 2 compliments. So, for instance, if I wanted to approach my wife about leaving her dirty clothes on the floor, I might first tell her that I liked the new shirt she bought and that I appreciated how she did the laundry the previous week. Then I would ask her if she could pick up her clothes. Yesterday, Eve was making some oatmeal chocolate chip raisin cookies, a recipe that she often makes by stirring together an oatmeal cookie box mix with chocolate chips and raisins. I really dislike raisins, so naturally I've never cared for this recipe, and I've even strongly implied my dislike for them on several occasions. Still, my wife never seems to get the hint. So yesterday, while Eve was getting out the ingredients to make the cookies, I started with 2 compliments. I said that it was a nice gesture for her to make cookies for the family, and that I liked how she cooked them for the perfect amount of time, so that they weren't too hard or too doughy. I then told her that I didn't care for the raisins, and I would appreciate it if she made a few cookies without them, since the raisins weren't already mixed in. Eve added them and the chocolate chips to the box mix. My wife nodded, so I thought that meant she was saying yes. Later, she announced the cookies were ready to eat, so I came over and asked which ones didn't have the raisins. With a confused expression, she asked me what I meant. I reminded her of our conversation earlier. Eve replied that since I had given her 2 compliments on the cookies, but only 1 complaint, she thought that I enjoyed her raisin cookies more than I disliked them, so she continued with the original recipe. She said that they couldn't be that bad if 2 out of 3 of my comments about them were positive. I was at a loss, so I just sat down. I wanted to say something, but didn't know how to articulate my thoughts. Finally, I decided to just go for it. Eve, I began, but before I could continue, Eve interrupted in a warning tone. Careful, Pete, remember our agreement. At that point, I lost it. I stood up abruptly and told her I couldn't pretend anymore, and that eating the raisin cookies like this was unbearable, and that my feelings about the cookies were pretty much all negative. I didn't preface that comment with 2 positives, so I broke our agreement here. At first, I thought I was justified, but I talked to my friends, who told me that my wife doesn't owe me cookies, and I should just be grateful she made me cookies at all, and I shouldn't have broken the agreement. Eve is still mad at me. So am I the idiot for breaking the agreement? Holy cow, the communication in this relationship is abysmal. In what messed up world are you not allowed to share that you dislike raisins without offering 2 essentially unrelated complimentary preambles? This is so freaking odd. Maybe well-intentioned to form more positive exchanges, but this feels really extreme and counterproductive to me. Not the idiot. Your wife failed to uphold her part of the agreement you'd made, whereas it's intended to allow someone to voice a complaint or request. She's repurposed it into a new thing in which the complaint or issue is not heard at all if accompanied by positive sentiments, which a complaint must always be. Facepalm. What did I just read? This rule seems like it's some BS from TikTok or something. You can't have a clear conversation if everything has to be sugar-coated. This communication style is a time bomb with a clock. Agree. Depending on your dynamic here, you're both kind of dumb, or she's manipulative. Think about it this way. You're not allowed to voice a complaint unless it's prefaced by 2 compliments. Still, if you preface a complaint with 2 compliments, she then assumes the complaint doesn't apply? Magic. No complaints are ever made. I suggest you go to therapy to get some intense guidance on how to actually communicate in a partnership. My husband, 33, and I, 30 female, are expecting our first baby. After weighing all of our options, my husband and I decided on a natural birth at a birthing center. I felt strongly about this, and although my husband was initially nervous, he agreed and has grown to feel more comfortable with the idea as my pregnancy progressed. My entire pregnancy, my mother-in-law has questioned this decision. She never fails to gently warn me of the risk of this decision. I continue to tell her that this is what feels right to me and try to educate her on the subject, but she has held strong that she disagrees with my choice. She's always been respectful, but I've grown rather irritated over the last 9 months that she'll not let this go. I've asked my husband to talk to her about it, and he has tried, but because she's doing it out of concern, she doesn't see that the constant conversation over my birth plan is exhausting. I've decided that I only want my husband in the room with me when I give birth, but I want to have my mom there for some time while I'm laboring and then waiting in the waiting area to meet the baby once she's born. I would love to have my mother-in-law do the same, but as my due date gets closer, I'm leaning toward not having her. I don't want to be in labor hearing about how my pain could be avoided if I were in a hospital with an epidural, or any other negative comments about my choices during my labor and delivery. My husband feels that if I don't have my mother-in-law there, I should also not have my mom there, and they can both just wait in the waiting room, as having my mom be able to come in while I'm in labor and not my mother-in-law would hurt her feelings. I don't think I should have to not have my mom there because my mother-in-law can't get on board with how I've chosen to have my baby. At this point, I can go into labor any day now, so I have to make a decision. Am I the idiot if I didn't have my mother-in-law in the room, but did have my mom? Not the idiot. You're the one in labor. What anybody else wants, including hubby, is secondary. If you want to deny mother-in-law while live streaming the event to Eurovision to spite her, that's your call. Mama gets what mama wants on this day more than any other day in her life. A natural consequence of constantly undermining and critiquing someone's reasonable birthing plan is that you won't be invited to the hospital. You don't have to be fair. The priority is to ensure you're safe and comfortable. I wonder how many of these demanding mothers-in-law had their own mothers-in-law in the room when they gave birth. Your mom is your mom. When he gives birth, he can have his mother there too. Honestly, I'm disappointed in your husband for not being supportive of you. You get to choose everything about how you do this, and your husband should do some reflection here on what matters, his mom's ego, or that you feel as safe and as comfortable as possible. However, make sure to tell the staff there that your mother-in-law is not allowed in the waiting room or your room, and that she's not there. And if he keeps insisting, he can also wait outside with his mother.